Do you feel the air getting colder? Imagine being stalked by someone who wants nothing but the worst for you. They want to torment you without rest. If they had the chance, they might even kill you. Now, imagine they're invisible. Ghosts aren't always this extreme, but for the simple fact that they get to choose when and where we see them, it's simply terrifying. They're so shrouded in darkness and mystery that the fear of the unknown overwhelms us the moment we start to feel that strange presence. Tonight, I will share with you 5 real ghost stories from subscribers. Let's just say you don't have to feel lonely anymore. Something is there with you. Speaking of getting colder, buy yourself a Darkness Prevails hoodie or t-shirt from our new merchandise store, because nothing will keep you warmer than a shirt with my name on it. I even designed a Dankness Prevails t-shirt for you hipsters out there. Now, let's get on with the show. Number 1. I've been followed by an invisible hand. Submitted by DausMauie. This began when I was little. My mother's friend was a security guard, and one day she brought me a list of those codes they use to communicate different situations without making the public panic. And I invented a game where I would knock the different numbers on the wall and it would mean something to the imaginary monster in the wall of my bedroom. I played this with a friend of mine for some time. Then we went into a place my family called the secret bedroom, which is basically a room on the second floor that was all the front house in length, connecting my parents' bedroom on one side to my brother's bedroom on the other side. The room was never finished, and is extremely dirty with tons of dead insects and graffiti we did over the years, but it was our favorite playroom. So what we did is that we sat in the middle of the room and started playing again. Then one of us had the idea to knock nursery rhymes onto the wall to see if the monster would answer. And strangely, this time, he did. He would finish all the songs correctly, to the point we were convinced it was my youngest brother in his bedroom playing with us. But when we opened the door to his room, we saw he was simply playing video games. He got mad when he saw us enter his room. We also realized the spot we were knocking on wasn't even connected to his bedroom. It was right between the 2 rooms where there's nothing on the other side. If you go far enough, you would just reach a wall that was situated over the main staircase. And to actually reach it, you would need a really tall ladder, and to dare yourself to install it right in the middle of the stairs, so it was impossible someone was playing with us. But being the kid I was, I just forgot about it after a couple of days. Not so long after this, I was taking a shower when I heard someone knocking on the door. I yelled, "What is it?" But no one answered. I left the shower and opened the door to see who it was, thinking they didn't hear me. But no one was there. I could hear my parents in the living room downstairs and my brother playing video games in his room. I just shrugged and went back to my shower. Time passed. On one particular night, I really wasn't tired, but since it was bedtime, I was stuck inside my room for the night. I played different games in my bed when I had the idea to make a small tent by getting under the covers and extending my arm, forming this so-called tent. When I did, someone knocked, but right on the palm of my hand. I got a chill in my back and just waited, thinking I just imagined it, but it happens again. I could feel the knuckles on my palm and thinking I would catch my brother doing a prank on me. I quickly removed the blanket off of myself, but still, no one. The door was still closed and there was no sign of life. I had trouble falling asleep that night. The next event jumps all the way to the holidays, so long later that as a child I actually completely stopped worrying about it. I believe it was a Christmas morning. I had been woken up by knocking in the wall of my bedroom. The knocking clearly did the first verses of Jingle Bells, and thinking I was imagining it again, I jumped right out of my skin when I heard my father yell from the other side of the wall that I need to stop knocking on the walls because he needs some sleep. And my father is not the joking type. It clearly wasn't him. I talked to my mother later that day and said she heard it too, but she just didn't really care. The very last thing I ever had to do with the hand was when I was playing in the basement with my cousins and my youngest brother. We would play a game called The Whistler, which is pretty much hide and seek in the dark, but the point of the game is that the ones hiding need to scare the ones searching before the seeker scares you. My cousins and I were all hiding in the same big room, and I hid inside an old wardrobe on one side of the room, while they hid on the other side, so we could get him from both sides at the same time. When my brother began searching and entered the room, I was getting ready to strike when something grabbed my ankle. I screamed, and I was a bit mad I lost so easily, without even noticing my brother. But the truth is, when I went out of my hiding place, they were all staring at me with huge eyes. I told my cousins my brother got me, and my brother said, "No, I couldn't have. I was still at the door." My cousin, still on the other side of the room, just didn't speak a word, and we exchanged roles. This was the last time I had contact with the hand, and since then I have moved out of the house, so I doubt I will ever feel or hear it again anytime soon. Number 2. The White Lady. Submitted by Nightwatcher666. My gran used to tell me a story of the White Lady. She is a ghostly apparition that appears in the dead of night around the country roads near my gran's house. Some people have encountered her and say she is truly terrifying. She's a huge white spirit that haunts the nearby roads, frightening anyone who happens to be driving in that location at night. The most terrifying description of the White Lady is her face. She has no features at all, no nose, no mouth, and no eyes. Just a pale, blank face that digs into your soul. I once heard that my uncle was on his way to my gran's one night after a few hours of drinking. Apparently, he was walking down one of the roads in the dead of night when he encountered her. She appeared right behind him. Terrified and afraid, he sprinted all the way down the road to my gran's house with the White Lady close behind. After that traumatic experience, he has not been down that road ever since. One night, I stayed at my gran's. I got up for a drink of water around 2 in the morning. I quietly walked downstairs in the front room, and to my curiosity, I stupidly opened the curtain and looked out of the window. What I saw that night scarred me for the rest of my life. A pale, white, featureless face looking right in at me. Just like all the stories I heard of her, I didn't shut the curtain and quickly raced upstairs straight to my gran's room. I spent the rest of the night up there. That image will always stick in my mind. Truly, it was a terrifying experience, and I hope I never see her again. Number 3. The Little House in the Woods. Another submission from DausMauie. This story happened when I was about 8 years old, and I even confirmed it with my mother recently. A long time ago, my grandfather built a wooden cabin deep into the woods so my family could spend some time with nature. There was no electricity, no running water, not even toilets. Since the only thing to do was to play outside, I explored the area a lot. The only rule was that if I didn't see the cabin through the trees anymore, I have to come back. When this happened, I was pretty experienced in navigating myself through the forest, so I dared to break the rule, and this time go as far as I was comfortable with. I told myself that if I was going to do this, I'd walk in a straight line to be sure to not get lost even when I don't see the cabin anymore. So I started my little exploration, and sure enough, after a couple of minutes, I couldn't see the cabin through the trees. So I continued forward. Some time passed and I noticed something in the distance. A wooden fence. At that time, I was already pretty sure no one lived in that direction, and even less so close to our cabin, so I went to check it out. Suddenly, I heard a dog bark repeatedly. When I reached the fence, there were some little holes in them, as most wooden fences do, and I looked through. I could see a dark, short-haired dog barking at me and a small house. It was nothing impressive. It really was just a regular small house with one floor and maybe an earth basement, but I couldn't really tell. My first reaction was to tell myself that someone built a house on our land illegally and thought they wouldn't get caught. So I ran back home like if the house was going to disappear, and I found my mother on the front yard. I sprinted towards her and I told her everything, and obviously she said there was no way someone could have built a house there without us knowing. And she thought I was joking or something, but I insisted so much that she decided to ask my brother to follow me so I could show him this house. And my previous fear became real. The house had completely vanished. I searched for the wooden fence again. It couldn't have been that far since I had gone in a straight line. But nothing. My brother just got bored and told me we were going back. I told my mom we didn't find anything, and the experience stopped there. But a couple of years later, I was talking to my father about the land, and he told me we weren't the first to own it, as there were 2 other people living here a long time ago. They were in little houses, and there were 1 or 2 old farms, but nothing was left of them except ruins. I visited these ruins and realized at the time that it was what I saw. It was one of those small homes that was here, standing here, a long time ago. Number 4. Ghost in My Bedroom. Submitted by Cat Lover. My family lived in Texas for 7 years when they decided to move up to the Pacific Northwest of Washington State, where we still live, and where my story begins. My bedroom is on the 2nd floor. My dad has commented that I have the nicest bedroom in our community, and it is. Now, I always sleep with my bedroom door closed, so no one would disturb me while I slept, and that included our 2 cats and a dog. For a couple of times within the first few months, I would feel pressure on the side of my bed, as if something had just sat down. I would put my hand on the spot where I felt it, but there was nothing there. I also didn't see a thing. I believe I am one of those people who would never see an actual ghost, but things did start to change. One of our cats, a short-haired brown tabby named Rosie, loved sleeping on my bed during the daylight hours. I would always find her curled up on my bed. In June, before I graduated high school, Rosie was attacked by dogs and disappeared. We never did find her alive or dead. Since then, I often would feel something up against my legs while I slept. During one of these times, I heard purring, and I knew that it was my beloved cat Rosie sleeping on my bed like she used to. Then suddenly, I stopped feeling it, which caused something to change. I would continue to feel something against my legs and also on my back, as if something was sleeping next to me. I would feel something weird going up my back, as if something was in the room, something was trying to harass me, but couldn't. But that wasn't all that was happening. We have a small little deck on the 2nd floor, and I have a door that went out to that with a window right next to it, which would leave plenty of light from the moon to shine in. Several times during the night, I have seen a dark shadow blocking out the light. I could never really tell where it was standing because it was so large and massive, and I still see it to this day. I don't know what it is, but so far it hasn't become physical. That is my only worry, but I can deal with it because I can only see it at night. Number 5. The Barrett Ranch House. Submitted by Alyssa Scarlett. Hello, my name is Alyssa. I have a story for you. I am 17 years old, but my encounter with the paranormal happened when I was 16. My story takes place around May or June of 2016. It was moving day. I was helping my stepmother move. Since I had not seen her new house, I went with my uncle to go see it. While waiting for my family, my uncle began telling me that the oldest brother, Mondo, himself, and his on and off girlfriend had been visiting haunted places and playing with a Ouija board for the last 2 weeks, but kept returning to this farmhouse for the last 5 days straight. As my uncle told me about this farmhouse, my excitement grew and grew. I really like creepy things, especially anything that had to do with the paranormal. I then confessed I wanted to go visit this farmhouse as well. Turns out, they were going again that night, so they let me join them. We left the house around 11 or around midnight. The farmhouse is called Barrett Ranch House. It is located right off of Proctor Valley in San Diego, California. The miles of dirt road travels from Chula Vista to Jamul. Proctor Valley is notoriously haunted, and it has been for over a century. So the way I saw it was that we were driving on a haunted dirt road to a haunted farmhouse. However, our actions continued to reflect our idiotic behavior throughout the night. It didn't help that this took place during a full moon. According to Mondo, cults tended to worship at Proctor during a full moon. To make matters worse, by the time we were actually on Proctor Valley, it was witching hour. The whole time, Mondo was texting a girl who had went with them last time to the farm. He was asking her if she wanted to go. She said she was at the border at the moment, but would take an Uber ride to meet us there. When we finally arrived at the farmhouse, my uncle made sure to check with his headlights to make sure no one was there. As soon as we pulled up, I felt a sense of déjà vu. A few nights before, I had a dream that I was 5 and had went to a red school that was located next to a red house. Both buildings had looked exactly the same in my dream. After knowing it was empty, we drove back to a gas station to wait for the girl Mondo was talking to. We'll call her Tiff. After what seemed like forever, Tiff finally showed up. We repeated the process of making sure no one was inside. The coast was clear. After we got out, we all heard a bat. Mondo explained every time they heard the bat, something was going to happen. From the farmhouse, you could see Proctor. The whole area was covered in red clouds that had specks of gray and black. The farmhouse's clouds were white with hints of blue and green from the full moon. This only added to the eerie feeling I felt. I also felt sick to my stomach. All of us except Tiff had a weapon, and slowly we made our way into the house. The door was missing. Windows that were covered up were now completely exposed. Random items such as photos or board games were scattered all across the floor. There was a shredded wall with a big hole on the left side when you first enter. There's a chimney to the right. After the main room, there's a little hallway. And at the end of that hallway, you can either go straight into another room, or you could go upstairs that led to the attic. So there's a total of 3 rooms in this house. The room next to the end of the hallway had all kinds of rubbish. There was even a sign that said not to vandalize the house. Apparently, one day the owner wanted to restore it to its former beauty. After we left that room, we headed towards the attic. This whole time I was gripping my knife so tightly that I could have cut myself with it if it wasn't in its sheath. I could feel my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I have never been so scared in my life, and that bat wouldn't shut up. It was like a fire alarm system. It would stop for 2 seconds, but then would start up again. There wasn't much in the attic. It was small, probably about the size of a classroom, if not less. There were a couple of wrappers from the gas station that was across the street. This hinted that someone could possibly be living there or hanging out there at the moment. There was also a hollow space that was probably used for a closet, but it was empty. My uncle's on and off girlfriend, who we will call Kate, had told me that I looked sick. I reassured her I was fine, even though I really wasn't. We finally went downstairs to the main room. We went through the rubbish on the floor. My heartbeat was still beating pretty crazy, but within the next second, it dropped to the pit of my stomach. In 1 second we were chatting, the next we heard footsteps from the attic. We all turned to one another. The expressions on everyone's face told us that they had heard it too. Quickly, we huddled together. We debated on what to do. Like the coward I am, I wanted to go outside. I wanted to get away. Kate had said she had heard the bushes from outside shuffle. However, I was running on fear. That meant I didn't care. I hadn't heard it yet. I listened closely. Sure enough, there was something moving in the bushes outside. At the moment, I thought it was a rabbit, so I insisted on going out. Mondo and my uncle decided to stay and check out the attic. They wanted to take pictures and see if someone was up there, even though we were just there like 5 minutes ago. Kate, Tiff, and I all went outside. Mondo and my uncle didn't go straight to the attic like I thought they would. At first, they just stood in the main room. Mondo took lead into slowly going into the hallway. The girls and I stood outside more than 15 feet away, staring at the shuffling bushes. None of us moved, though. We wanted to wait until the guys had come out to investigate. My pounding heartbeat only sped up as I remembered the cults that were out that night. I thought there was a possibility someone or a group of them were in the bushes, ready to lure us out to our deaths or jump us. The bushes in the back were a couple of feet tall, but in front was a patch of small, thin, see-through bushes. They were almost like flowers. There were 2 right next to each other, so close they were touching. In spite of that, only one was moving. 2 large bushes and only one was moving. By the sound, it seemed like something was stepping on it. Kate had her eye on the bush that would move frequently. I kept my eye on Mondo and my uncle. They were about to enter the hallway, when all of a sudden, they ran out of the house as fast as they could. My panting brother commented that they heard a loud thump that was right next to him. Kate pointed to the bushes, saying how they were moving. At first they were still, but then they began to shuffle once more. With squinted eyes, my uncle made his way over there. Then it stopped. A few seconds later, the bush shuffled again. My uncle stuck a camera into its face, and it stopped again. My uncle backed away, and again it began to move. My uncle commented that it seemed to flatten, as if it was being stepped on, which is what I had thought as well. We all went over to the area and stuck our hands out. It was as cold as a dead body. You could immediately tell the difference of the temperature. My uncle wanted to see if anyone was there messing with us, so we walked towards the house that was next to it. And there was no one. Tiff yelped, explaining there was someone in the window. Kate shouted back that that was impossible because the windows of the first house were covered with wood. They weren't. They were covered last time, she stood, mouth agape. We made our way back to the second house. My brother and uncle wanted to go back in, but I just wanted to leave. In the midst of our talking, I heard something scraping across the cement outside the house. That table just moved, Mondo gasped. I hadn't seen it move, but I heard it. It was a black stand that looked kind of like a table. No one else saw or heard it, but I immediately believed him since I know I had heard it too. It looked heavy, so I doubt anyone could move it easily. After that, Mondo, Tiff, and my uncle went back into the house. Kate and I went down the little hill to our car. I heard those short, 2-foot-high bushes move. I literally jumped into the seat, not caring that I landed a little painfully on a purse. We had to wait probably 30 minutes before Mondo, my uncle, and Tiff returned to the car. We made our way back to Proctor Valley. They wanted to play the Ouija at Proctor. Now my father is a devil worshiper, so I knew it was wrong to. Not to mention it was a full moon, and it was the witching hour. However, I considered playing. We settled in the middle of Proctor. We all sat in the car, Mondo asking if we were going to play or not. My uncle cut the engine. We were in complete silence. We all waited until someone got out of the car, but no one does. Mondo lights a cigarette. Apparently last time they played the Ouija board, there was a little girl and a little boy. My brother calls out the little girl's name. "Do you want to play with Kate, Sarah?" Mondo asked. Sarah was apparently the little girl from the Ouija board. Kate curses at him. You could tell she was starting to get scared. She then too asked the little boy if he wanted to play with Mondo. "Did you hear that?" We all froze. Kate sat in the passenger seat while Mondo sat behind her. They were the only two that had heard the noise. We sat in silence, still debating to play the Ouija board or not. We beat around the bush about playing it. Still, no one got out of the car. I closed my eyes, then I heard something break behind us. The closest way to explain the sound was as if a chip bag was opening. Mondo had asked if anyone heard that one. Everyone shook their heads except me. I nodded. At this point, Kate was pretty scared when the tree a couple of feet away from us also shuffled. My uncle took pictures around the leaves. Kate pushed herself closer to my uncle. "Look at the tree," she pointed at the camera. "Yeah, it looks like a blue orb." My uncle took more pictures. "Sarah, is that you? Do you want to play with Kate?" Mondo teased. "That's not funny, Mondo," Kate cursed. "They're right outside my window now," she yelped. My uncle looked through the photos with Kate. "They do look like orbs," my uncle repeated. "Let's go. I want to go." There was a plea in her voice, and I wholeheartedly agree. We did leave since it was near the end of the witching hour. We didn't play the Ouija board, and I fell asleep after that. I never did get to see those pictures. I asked about them, but my uncle said he didn't know where they were, and that was the end of that. Later, I found out that the Barrett house had been a nursery. You better check your thermostat. When you're alone and there's a chill in the air, it could mean something far more dreadful than faulty central heat and air. An otherworldly being might just be living in your home. Good night. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And don't forget to head on over to check out our store full of shirts, hoodies, phone cases, and mugs for both guys and gals. That's at shop.spreadshirt.com/darknessprevails. Thanks.